Hello everyone, hope you are doing great. In this tutorial, I'm going to learn how we can manipulate the DOM. So first, let me define a variable. Let's call it body, where all our elements are going to go. All right, document.body. All right, and down below it, I'm going to create an h1 element. I'm going to add some text to it, and then I'm going to add it to the body. All right, so first, let me define a variable. Let's call it h1 element, and then document.create element. In here, I'm going to pass the text. So it's going to be an h1, right? As we said before. So in here, I'm going to set the text. So text content equal to, this is a JavaScript tutorial, for example, all right? And then I'm going to add it to the body. So body dot append, all right? Then I'm going to pass the h1 element, right? If I save the file, as you can see, my h1 element was added into the body, all right? So this line, we created the h1 element, and in here, I added some text to it. And here, I appended each one element into the body, all right? So there are two different ways to append elements to our body. So use append or appendChild. So what's the differences between these two? So when using append, we can actually append HTML elements or strings, all right? So I can come here and I'm gonna replace it with just a text, all right? So as you can see, this text was added to the body. It's a string, all right? But when using appendChild, we could only append HTML elements. If I pass this string there, it's going to give me an error, all right? So in this example, I'm going to just stick with append, all right? So each one element, right? Now we're going to see the difference between text content and inner text and inner HTML. These three are responsible for setting the text of a certain element, all right? So the difference is, so when text content and inner text are pretty much the same, but inner HTML is a little bit different. So let's say this is a JavaScript. Let's say I wanted to put this JavaScript into a span, all right? So let's put span, and I'm just put JavaScript. And if I save the file, as you can see, span was interpreted as a normal string, all right? But it's an actual tag, so it should be interpreted as a tag. For this reason, we should use the inner HTML instead of the text content and the inner text, all right? So in here, if I came here and use, sorry for that, what happened? All right, oh yeah, in here. So inner HTML, no, inner text first. So as you can see, text content and inner text do not work on this case, so I'm going to use inner HTML. If I save the file, as you can see, there's no span over here, and it was interpreted as a span tag, all right? So this is where the inner HTML is useful, right? So that's it. And now we are going to learn how we can remove items or elements from our document, right? So let me create first a div, all right, here. So document that create element, which can pass in the div tag. Then I'm gonna add it to the body. So and I'm gonna pass the div. All right. I save the file. You might notice that nothing is in here, but it's actually here, right? Just there's no text inside the div, that's why it's not showing up over here, right? But what I want to do is remove both the h1 and the div. All right. So I could use div.remove, right, and we call the method on it. And as you can see, the div is nowhere to be found, so it was removed. We could do the same thing with h1, all right? So h1 element.remove, right? I'm gonna call it, and as you can see, it was also removed. So if you want to create an element, we use the create element, and then we pass the tag that we want. If you want to remove element, we just call the remove on our element, all right? So that's how we can create and remove elements. Now let's move on to attributes, all right? Let me take this out, right? Come here. Now, I want to add some attributes. So HTML element, and I'm going to use setAttribute method, right? And in here, I'm going to pass the name of the attribute and then the value. So let me use title, all right? And then the value. So say JavaScript tutorial, all right? And if I save the file, I come here, as you can see, the title attribute was added to this h1 element. And if I hover over the h1, as you can see, a little message is going to pop up, right? So this is how we can add. Let's add another one. So let's add an ID. So h1 element, that's the attribute, and then ID. Here I'm gonna pass something. I'm just gonna call it heading one, maybe. Yeah. Let's see what's gonna happen. So as you can see, the ID was added into the h1, right? So this is how we can add attribute. Now let's learn how we can remove them. So I'm gonna select h1 element. I'm gonna use remove attribute. And the remove attribute method expects the name of the attribute. In this case, we're going to remove the title. So let's see what's going to happen. And as you can see, the title attribute was removed. And also, we're going to remove the ID. Pass ID over here. You can see the ID was removed too. All right. So if you want to create an attribute, we use the setAttribute method. If you want to remove an attribute, or you use the removeAttribute method. All right. Now, I'm just going to take this right, and I'm going to we're going to learn how we can use classes, right? How we can add them, remove them, right? So in here, I'm just going to use h1 element dot. I'm going to use classList, right? And then dot, and then add. All right, this is how we can add classes. So here I could pass as many classes I want to, right? So my class one, all right. Start with just one class. As you can see, the h1 has my class one as a class. I could pass in another class, all right. So let me just my class 2. Let's pass another one, third one, so my class 3. And if I save the file, as you can see, 3 classes were added to this h1. All right, so this is how we can add classes. Now let's see how we can remove them. All right, so classList.remove. Is it remove? Oh, classList. Yeah, classList.remove. All right, and in here I have to pass the name of the class. So my class 1, right? If I save the file, as you can see, my class 1 was removed. And again, I could pass as many classes as I want to. Let's remove my class 2, all right, or 3. Now I'm going to end up with only one class, which is my class 2, all right? So this is how we could add and remove. There's also another method, all right, that could be useful sometimes, all right? It's called toggle, all right? So see how we could use h1 element that classList, right? Toggle, right? And in here, I'm going to pass the name of the class, all right? So my class 2. And what toggle does is it first checks if the class exists. If it exists, it would remove it. Otherwise, it would add it, right? So my class 2 already exists. So if I save the file, it would remove it. All right. So let's save the file and see what's gonna happen. As you can see, my class 2 was removed because it already exists. Let me come out. Right. Come back here again. So as you see, my class 2 is there. All right. So toggle checks for the class if it exists or not. If it exists, it would remove it. If it doesn't exist, it would add it. So instead of my class 2, let's use my class 10, all right? So my class 10 does not exist, right? So it would actually try to add it, all right? So if I save the file, as you can see, my class 10 was added there. And also we could pass arguments, all right? So not argument, sorry, a second argument, all right? And it should be a Boolean. So it should be true or false, all right? So if I set it to true, it would add it no matter what. So if I set true, in this case, it would be no difference because the class does not exist, right? But if I set it to false, right, and I save the file, as you can see, it was removed, even though it does not exist there, right? So if I pass true, it will add it. If I pass false, it would remove it, all right? So that's it for classes. And now, let me take this off, right? Now let's move on to styling, all right? So how could we style an element, all right? Then I'm just gonna call h1 element dot and then style, and then so dot, and then I'm gonna pass in the color or the background or whatever I want. So let's give it a color. So color should be say green, all right? And if I save, as you can see, color of this h1 has changed to green, from black to green. I could do whatever I want, right? I could also, add an say, let's change the background color, right? And as you can see, the background color is not with the dash. Yeah, it's camel case. So in JavaScript, the styles are always camel case, right? There's no dash. So the background is going to be, say, blue, right? Let's save the file. As you can see, background is blue and the text is green. So this is how we can style our elements. So we pretty much covered everything from creating elements, removing them, adding attributes, removing them, adding classes, removing them, and also styles. So that's it pretty much for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it and see you in the next one.